And it's amazing once you start to get a hold of those things, how much control you really have over that whole environment and over all of that happens. That look, people generally are not susceptible to drama. They're not susceptible to anger, whatever it is. It's that they do it. They find it. They're attracted to it. Once you know it, we're responsible for it. Let's back off of it a little bit, right? Now, are you also in an industry where you generally have to act happy all the time? Right? You see somebody in a supermarket or something, right? You have to act happy, correct? Do me a favor, like what's your name right here? Evan? Okay, Evan, well, we're going to do a little example with Evan, okay? And let's just say, Evan, that you are my client, and I am in the supermarket, and I'm there, and I'm getting my stuff, and Evan is going to come over and say hello. Come on over here. So Evan's going to come over, and he's going to surprise me and say hello because he is my client, okay? Go ahead and say hello, Evan. Hello. Go to hell, Evan. If I wanted to talk to you, I got your phone number, okay? Have a seat, Evan. Okay. Could you imagine if, and no offense to Evan, I like Evan, but could you imagine if you had that response to people? What would happen? Evan would not be a client anymore, right? Now, I used an extreme example so that you guys can see the difference. So what do we generally do on a regular basis, no matter what is going on? Hello, Evan. How's it going, right? And we have to put a smile on our face. But you know what I've found? From, again, dealing with thousands of realtors all over the world, you know what I found? Realtors have some pent-up anger. Okay, you guys know it. Realtors have some pent-up anger because they're so happy to everybody, and then they get on the phone with one of our coaches or something, and it is just like a spill fest. They just let it all out, okay? So remember, I was a realtor. I know what this is like. And so I used to do a couple of things to pretty much learn to vent. We need to vent, right? And so here's something you could do. Have you ever had a seller you just can't stand? Have you ever had a listing? Because you probably had that seller you just can't stand, right? And so you've got this seller you just can't stand and, whatever. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick up the phone, and I want you to say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I can't stand you, okay? You are an idiot. You pay me all this money. You don't listen to a thing that I say. You won't listen to any advice. Every time the phone rings and I see your number, I start to clench my fist. And when you're all done, dial their number, okay? Let it all out. And if you're not a phone person, how about email? Although I don't recommend this one anymore, actually. My wife walked into me a couple years ago, and I was writing this scathing email, right? And it's so against my personality, but I just wrote it out there. But believe me, if you're going to do that, please don't accidentally hit send. Please. There is no way to pull that back once you have hit send, okay? Believe me, it's kind of like asking when somebody's due and they're not, okay? Ask me how I know that one, all right? I just want to make sure for any of you in here, if you happen to be pregnant, I don't care if you have a goiter the size of 2 basketballs coming out of your stomach. I am not saying congratulations when you do until you tell me that you are pregnant. So if I've run into you already, I apologize. Just so you know, I don't make that mistake anymore, okay? Now, a couple more things on this, the last points here. I've got a friend who's he's an international best-selling author, about 7 or 8. I can't even keep up with it anymore. The guy's incredible. And he is, he's spoken to 4 different U.S. presidents. The guy's amazing. What you'd love about him if you met him, you'd never know. He's all about his 2 kids, all about you'd have no idea. And so he gets hired by companies to actually go in and use non-traditional methods to turn companies around. Non-traditional, like he doesn't just take here's the profit and loss. And so he got called in, this is a true story. A couple years ago, he got called into this international franchise. And he went and visited one of the franchise offices down south in the U.S., and he wanted to figure out what's going on. I mean, it was a great location, great food, great menu. What is going on here? Great staff. What's happening here? And so he went to this one, he visited it for 3 days, and he made one change. Based on being there, he made one change. And here's the change he made. Somebody else give me your name again. Just yell it out. Elizabeth? Okay. So here's what he did. He decided, because this particular company had 10 employees, okay? They had like a chef, a hostess. I'm not going to try to name 10 employees, but you know what I mean. And the chef had an open cooking area, you know what I mean, where he can see everybody who comes in. And so he said, all 10 of you are going to learn 10 of your clients, your best clients' names. So if 10 of them learn 10 names, that's 100 names. You guys are with me? Okay. And so when your person comes in, you are going to greet them like there's no tomorrow. This is just, they are all that matters. And so Elizabeth, right? So Elizabeth walks in the door, and Elizabeth is the chef's person. And the chef is going to go, Elizabeth, so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a few days. It's so good to have you here. We'll be right with you. And when the hostess hears the chef say this, what's the hostess going to do? Going to hear Elizabeth's name, and she's going to go, Elizabeth, so good to see you. I've got a table waiting for you. And she is going to treat her like the world, okay? Now, Elizabeth, true story, is going to go home, and she's going to, maybe talk to her husband and her 2 kids, and she's going to say to them, guys, tomorrow night, we're going to go out to eat. And in the back of her head, she's thinking to herself, I know you guys don't think that much of me, but there's a restaurant I'm going to bring you to. Okay? True story. They did nothing but change exactly what I just said, and their profits quadrupled in 6 months, changing nothing else. How does that relate to real estate? Remember what we said? Do people want to be around you, or do they not want to be around you? We're going to talk about likability in a second, but do people want to be around you? That is how they vote, okay? Last one here. You guys know Anthony Robbins? You guys know him, right? Some hate him, some like him. If you actually listen to his stuff, it's pretty good stuff. So anyway, Anthony Robbins did this study of the top 100 salespeople in the world. And he wanted to know what was the number one reason for their success. So he took like a realtor, a vacuum salesman, whatever. Top 100 in the world. He wanted to know what's the number one reason, what's the number one common denominator. Do you know what he came up with? Don't be afraid to give a wrong answer here, guys. I'm not going to hit the road. What do you think? What did they come up with? What'd you say? No idea. You just yelled something out. Just anybody else? What do you think they came up with? Number one. What's that? Okay, likability is a good one. Honesty. What's that? Good with names. I'd be disqualified. All right. Here's what they came up with. Number one out of anything, negotiating anything. Ability to control, ability to manage their own state of mind. Number one. Now let's get practical. What does that mean to realtors? It means that every single person has the exact same experience. It means if you leave a closing and the seller backs out of the deal because they don't like the buyer and somebody calls you, they get the exact same experience as if you just left a closing and the seller decided they like you so much that they want to double your commission. Would you agree that right now those 2 different people would probably get 2 different experiences? Yes or no? Yes, they would. Is this an easy thing to do? Absolutely not. Is it something that we can control, though? How do we control our state? What did I say? We ask ourselves the right questions, right? Different people around, these kinds of things. This is stuff that's important that, again, we're going to move forward to more practical stuff here, but the truth is, if you don't get this down, you're going to struggle a whole lot.